Oh my goodness, we've gone and done it now. Look, y'all, if you want to learn something about elk calls and calling, then come on into elk camp with us, slide your butt into a chair, and buckle up, because today's guest has forgotten more about the subject than most folks will ever learn in 3 lifetimes. That's what happens when you're raised as part of an elk calling dynasty. Oh, no, we ain't dropping no names just yet. But get ready, because this native son is one of the most genuine, hardworking, passionate, and knowledgeable elk hunters and elk call manufacturers there is. And he's about to spill the juice. That discussion, our Elk Bros shout outs and questions from our awesome Elk Bros mailbox. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk? They live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And as always, for those blue-collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas. And that's right, from the Katy, Texas area, we've got the leader of the Venezuelan Mafia in the house, Mr. Luis Gonzalez. And from Cuesta, New Mexico, that's right, we got the legend in the house, Mr. R.C. Knox. And from Las Cruces, New Mexico, your elk hunting coach, one of the Elk Bro original elk hunting coaches. That's right, the Gila Ridge runner, Mr. Eric Aragon. And from Cimarron, we got WWJGD. What would Joe Gillia do? He's in the house, teed up and ready to go. And joining us tonight at Elk Camp, every parent hopes and prays that their kids are better than they are. Well, we don't know if he's better, because there are some huge shoes to fill, that's for sure. But we absolutely know this man's father couldn't be more proud. He grew up in an elk call dynasty built by Mr. Marc Carlton. And today, while also a full-time fireman, he has continued the family tradition with his own twist of passion and artistry and expertise to produce some of the best elk calls on the market. All of us here at Elk Camp want to welcome the man behind Native by Carlton, Mr. Marc Carlton.
Big Mark.
Welcome to Elk Camp, Mark.
Fellas, appreciate it.
Welcome in, Brother Marc.
Glad to be here, man.
We're glad to have you, brother. I think every one of us wants some of y'all's products here. I was looking right behind me. I got a bugle tube and a call right here that's from you guys. So love y'all's products, brother.
No, we appreciate it, man. So it's whether it's new or old, somebody's usually got something laying around.
Mine's on my backpack. Joe can tell you. I'm telling you, that thing's like, it's gold to me. He gave me my first one 13 years ago, and it's been with me ever since, brother. And it's been on a lot of neat hunts. And if it could tell stories, man, the stories it could tell, that's for sure.
and I bet you're just chock full of stories, Mark, man. I mean, like you said, you've been doing this for how long, bud?
Well, 40 years, in some way, shape, or form, whether it's been building calls or guiding. Most of my career has ended up being a guide and or cameraman, usually both, it seems like, but it's been a
That's
while.
awesome.
I'm 47 now, so it's been a chunk.
We could use a cameraman, Mark.
Especially one that knows how to use his own calls.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword, man, because it's either the guide's fault or the cameraman. So
Yeah.
double duty deal.
Right.
No.
Never the hunter, never the shooter.
That's right.
It's
That
not
is
the
right.
Indian. It's got to be the bow.
That's it.
So tell us about the company. So introduce yourself and the company to everybody that's listening.
So Native is an offshoot of Wayne Carlton's Calls. Wayne Carlton's Calls started in '83, right? And we sold it to and merged with Hunter Specialties in 2000. Then kind of had some hiatus time, did some different things, ended up at the fire department, but I wanted to come back into the hunting industry for a bit. And so we started doing just more custom stuff, and that turned into be native. And long story, a little bit short, is Dad was over at HS. There was a parting of ways there. So then he ended up coming in too, kind of gave him a place to hang his hat for a while. And that's kind of where we're sitting now. So it's been growing pretty steady. We're kind of at, we're 5 years in. We kind of got to make some decisions here as far as how we grow, but it's just continuing to pick up steam every year right now.
Over the years, I've seen Native by Carlton, and as it, the things that you do especially for that. And, I've seen some of the things like some of the custom calls with the elk teeth. I've seen some of the external calls that have the different color. I mean, they're art pieces. They're not just calls. There's something that, man, I tell you, if I had one, it's something that I would pass down from my kid to my kid's kid. I mean, just incredible.
Yeah, they're heirlooms for sure.
Well, and that was kind of the goal. I think we've gotten to a point in the industry where a lot of the ideas are hashed out and beat down to death, to where I think it's harder to come up with something new and revolutionary, but I think we're at a point that we just need to be building stuff better. That quality needs to be the focus, because there's just so much stuff of just packaging it up and putting it together. And there's so many companies now that are not private owned anymore that I think a lot of that quality has slipped.
Diminished. Yes, sir.
Question I have for you, dude, is, you're at your first elk calling competition at how old?
8
years old. And
That's
I mean,
cool.
you're in that environment, and I've seen this with a lot of people that actually raised on a ranch or something like that, that has incredible elk hunting or any kind of hunting like that, that a lot of times they really don't know what they have at the time. And for you growing up in that, now I see you laughing about that. Tell me.
No, it's just that, there's just, I think, youthful ignorance and entitlement that comes with just growing up, that, man, I learned so much just by osmosis without even trying, not having a clue of who I was with or the people that I was around or who I was going to get exposed to. In hindsight, man, like looking back, a big piece of our elk side was also the turkey side. So a lot of our connections and people that we were around, man, they were Rob Keck and Earl Grove and Kinnemers and John Brown. They were like the core turkey assassins of the industry at the time, man, that helped like build the NWTF. But all that stuff just crossed over to the elk hunting side. Just, it was just, one fed the other. But being around all those guys and all those outdoorsmen that weren't just good, they were the best at what they did. That was just my normal deal. So to say I took it for granted is an understatement. Like there was a lot of stuff, man, on the plate there that I just, as a kid, you just think it's always going to be there. You just don't realize.
So was there a point where you wanted to get away from it?
Oh, yeah. No, I was completely fried and burned out by my mid-20s. So we had, about the time that we were selling, I was rodeoing a bunch, had more interest in doing that. I was still guiding on the side in the falls, starting to shoot horses for a living, just anything to kind of break up something different. And that's what that ended up looking like. And it's funny because Dad was raised Southern, right? He was raised in Florida and raised by, the guys in the Turkey Federation on that side, because he started he started the Turkey Federation chapter in Gainesville, Florida before we moved here. So the Turkey Federation started in 73. So he started that like 74, 75. And then we moved to Colorado in 75. So he had made those first contacts and relationships there that followed us throughout his career, long term. And then when he came here in Colorado, he started the first National Wild Turkey Federation chapter in Colorado.
Wow.
And those relationships just kept on snowballing and snowballing.
What part of Colorado are you guys in?
We're in Montrose right now.
Okay, gotcha.
And I say right now, we've always been in Montrose.
Yeah, I've been in Montrose the whole time, right? Yeah, I always thought Montrose was the elk capital of the world because that's where Wayne Carlton was, man.
Fun, it's bizarre, man. So Montrose is unique. We have Wayne Carlton, we have Phil Phillips. You guys remember Phil's name at all?
Yeah.
So Phil lives here. Tim Strickland, that coached gold medal in archery in like 88, Jay Bars, Denise Parker. Tim lives here in town. Like Ross Reels, I don't know if you guys are into fly fishing and stuff, but like Ross Reels and Scott Fly Rods is here in Montrose. Gordon Composites,
Yes.
which supplies 90% of the bowline material for the entire industry
Right.
is here in Montrose. And it's only, I think, we're 45,000 people countywide. It's not very big,
That's true.
but hell, everybody's here.
Yeah, it sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so if you got burnt out at 20, you're back. What happened?
I just needed a break, I guess. I don't know. It's so I actually got away from it for a while.
Life gets in the way.
Stopped hunting for a couple years, and I had a buddy that had bought a bow at an RMEF banquet, and was like, "Dude, man, hey, I bought this bow. I have no idea what I'm doing. Would you just help me?" And I've got a couple thousand acres over Norwood, and it's got a bunch of elk on it. Man, just go with me. And so he kind of drug me back into it. And at that time, I picked up a recurve, and I had got into shooting trad gear for a while. And that really kind of relit my fire a little bit. And once that kind of started going, then about that time, you get married and settle down, and your priorities kind of start shifting around a little bit. And that slowly kind of brought me back into the fold.
Yeah, because when I talked to you and we had that long conversation, it did not seem to me like somebody that had lost the passion. You seemed very passionate about what you do, and that was really cool to see.
Yeah, no, I needed to get a break for a bit. I think one thing that I really ran into as a kid, and everybody's got, some issue in the back of their brain. Mine was always had a pretty big chip on my shoulder about earning it, I guess.
Right.
Yep.
And there was so much stuff coming at me that was just on a platter that I didn't earn, that was truly just a compliment to my father, that, man, I just had to get out for a bit.
Yeah.
So that was darn sure a lot of it.
Very respectable.
Yeah.
Hats off to you, man. Hats off to you, what you've done.
Been there, done that, brother. Wore that T-shirt out, so I feel you, brother. So good on you getting out and getting your head screwed on right and getting back to your roots, brother.
I will say it was financially a terrible decision.
Look, it always is. But, yeah, look, it always is. But diamonds are forged out of pressure. So at the end of the day, man, it takes some of that. We got to, I listened to Steve Harvey the other day, and he said, man, you aren't where you are today without failure. You are where you are because you failed. And those guys that don't take chances, that are willing to fail, they're never going to be successful, because you got to be willing to get punched in the mouth. And it's not really about, how bad you got punched in the mouth, how quick you can get back up and get punched again, because
Yeah, make sure you tell that to Manano next time we are out there, if I can punch him in the mouth every time.
Punch him in the mouth.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll let you
Manano,
punch him in the
You
mouth.
just got to take it and get back up again. That's all you
I'll
have
let
to
you
do.
punch him
Take
in
it
the
again.
That's right.
It's going to be good for you.
I really hope our listeners understand that, man, what you are seeing, what you are hearing, this is exactly
Straight
what
elk
it's
camp.
like in the chairs around elk camp, man. I mean,
these guys hack on one another, ungodly, dude.
and the conversation we get to have, the depth that we already got to have with Mark here, this is just how it is there. So we appreciate you jumping in with us, Mark. We're excited to have you here tonight. We're real excited and for you sharing some of your expertise as we get into that. And man, when we start going through the rest of the show, jump right in, because you're here with us and you're pulled up a chair, man. So
Absolutely, Joe. Let's get this party started and head over to our ElkBros mailbox, brother.
yeah. Hey, Luis, you want to take that first letter?
We got Mr. Richard Flock from Oregon.
Richard?
Yeah. So his question is, there are 4 in our group hunting an Oregon archery elk unit, and we usually break up into groups of 2. But one of our group will only be there on weekends. So that'll leave us 3 of us hunting together most of the time. With our lack of experience in setups, my partner and I feel 2 is challenging enough. I know 3 can work out, and I was wondering what you'd recommend. Would you have 2 hunt together and 1 solo, or have all 3 hunt together? How would you handle this?
Depends on how much you like each other. I'm just kidding.
It depends on their.
No, you mean it.
too, because there might be some guys that want to hunt by themselves. You know, I mean, just because you're in camp, 3 of you together doesn't mean you have to hunt all 3 together.
I'm telling you right now, is with my experience, Joe, if me and the Mafia are in camp together, I'm taking 3 right? I enjoy being with them. I think that we can really strategize things, set up better. I don't know. I just feel like you got a better opportunity having two guys in a flying V, one caller, and getting out there and getting it done. But that's me, you know.
I particularly don't like hunting solo, not elk.
Yeah.
You know, because
I don't mind. I don't mind. But if I got two guys that are in camp with me, let's go. Let me call.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me call, and you guys get out front, knock one down, and then we'll switch. You know, I mean, that's just kind of where I'm at. Just, I guess, depends on their skill level too, Joe.
See, that's what they're talking about. Is they're not feeling confident with being able to do setups in the first place. Well, and I'm going to tell you this: if you should be more confident in a partner setup than you are in a solo setup.
Absolutely.
Because in a solo setup, man, you got to have so much better grasp of, you know, where is that stop and scan spot? Where am I going to be so I've got the right shooting lanes? What am I going to be so that I make that animal have to find me in a position that I get the best shot? Whereas now with a partner, you know, a good partner that, you know, you're up and they're back behind you, you know, you have a whole lot more options as a shooter now because, you know, that partner can pull them by you. So
I mean, you how do you hunting solo? How do you make the elk focus behind you? You know, and that's a challenge in itself.
We've had as many as 4 in the set, Joe. We had cameraman.
5 in a set.
Yeah,
we had 5 one time.
Exactly. 2 cameramen and.
Yeah. Maybe that's the way. I mean, you know, 2 and 3 to me is the sweet spot. Maybe just because that's the way I'm used to doing it within our group.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, we had up to 2 groups there that we had to split at one point, which that was an incredible hunt. But you know, I think based on what he's asking, if you know, not knowing any better, I would say your chances based on your, you know, what you're saying, your experiences, you're probably better off going the 3 together versus the 2 and then 1 solo. Unless it's the first day and you guys are trying to scout and, you know, split and look for different areas.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And then also there's a safety factor behind it too.
Mark, how do you feel about it?
So the worst I've had is 6 guys at once.
Yeah.
Just doing film and stuff. But I don't know. I need more. I need more information. If you got 2 guys on the trigger, I can make that work. I can put one guy downwind side where they always sneak around and stick one guy up on the left in case there's the what if
the other way.
Yeah. You know, it happens occasionally, right?
Absolutely.
So,
sure.
I mean, I think you can hunt 2 guys, but 3 hunting is like usually if I got 2 other guys with me, I leave my bow in the truck. I call, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Somebody's got to pick who's the primary gunner here.
No doubt. Has to have that discussion.
That pretty much happens with our group at point. You know, it's generally like when we have 3, I'm generally the caller and had the other 2 guys with me, you know, working it that way. But there's actually times, especially when we're
there's times when we change roles, Joe.
Yeah, when we're doing scenario calling, man, we are in a situation the way we're spread out in our scenario that we have animals come into 1, 2, or 3, you know, just depending on what we're doing like that. So, you know, I think the thing is where your problem is that you're going into the woods with the guys and never have worked that out. I mean, you've got to actually work on how you're going to set up, what your goals are in your setup ahead of time, and actually mock do that before you ever get out there, so that you can give you can give a sign or a symbol or something. Like we go like this and we know we're in a flying V. We know that I'm on the back end, these guys are going out to the side, or we have one directly in front, one going off to the downwind side. Whichever way we're going to work that would be our L that we would do like that. But you know, we give a symbol for it and we get in position, and they know that they're going to go out, how far they're going to be from each other, because we've done that now out there. And then that leaves me as a caller, that leaves me the open ability to move back behind them actually and pull those animals into wherever I need them to be. So
and to your point, Joe, we've also done it to where, like you said, on the fly, like that time Manano killed that 1 elk in the snow, and then there were some more elk coming, and I already had, killed an elk a few days prior. So you and I swapped roles, and you kind of came down to kind of try to see if you had an opportunity to shoot that other elk, right? So, I mean, just dynamically being able to understand your role and changing roles is
being able to
necessary.
communicate, man.
You kind of adapt quick to what the situation is presenting you.
And I don't know if Mark has seen this before, but Luis brings up an incredible point. Is I have found that one of the best times to kill multiple animals is after you've put one down on the ground.
No doubt.
Because there's been so many times we've had an animal go down, and I don't know if it's the added scent. I don't know if it's all the calling that happened ahead of time.
Call 5 more in.
Man, we always have. Have you had that happen?
I think there's some synergy there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stirs up for sure.
Yeah, we get animals that'll come in right on top of you, man. You can be gutting an animal come in on top of you.
Yep.
You know?
We did that last year.
Yep.
We were gutting my bull, and animals were pouring in there on us, huh, RC?
Yep.
So, Richard, what we're telling you, man, is we're good with the 3. Shoot, we're good with 4.
Yeah.
But we know what we're going to do. So I would tell you, practice that role. But if you
had a
have
conversation,
a guy in your group that he wants to hunt solo, then I mean, you guys are big boys, and you
have that conversation.
I want to do this by myself, and the other 2 take off, man. And you meet at the end of the day. You've seen 2 different places. You get a little more information, so it's not a bad thing either, man. It's just all about what fulfills you on the hunt. If you think 3 is a problem because you guys don't like the way each other smell, then do a split, man.
And when you're hunting together, I've been with Joe, and we got a bull coming, and I'm like, all right, Joe, bull goes right, that's your shot. Bull goes left, it's mine. And he's arguing with me. No, you're gonna shoot. I'm like, no, bro, listen to me. Bull goes to the right, you're killing him. Bull goes to the left, I'm killing him. I'm not gonna play that game. So we're in the middle of the set. The bull's coming. Bull goes right. I'm like, kill him, Joe. He never hesitate. I mean, here it is. But you got to have that discussion.
It's pretty good when the worst problem you have is arguing over who's going to kill them.
Shoot.
Who's going to shoot the
unselfishness. So
I was with Brendan a couple years ago, and same thing. We get this bull working into us, and I'm like, look, man, I ain't killing this bull. I'm calling this bull in for you. So don't even worry. He's like, can you kill him? I'm like, I'm not gonna kill him. I'm gonna let you kill him. So you have to have those conversations, but they're conversations to have.
And I have to make a quick comment here, because you mentioned the smell, Joe. And just so you guys know, we used to go, all 3 of us, Joe, Manano, and I used to hunt together all the time. But then we realized Joe has an issue with his piping. And some of the smells that come out of it, they're just not of this world. So kind of last year, Manano and I kind of decided to go just the 2 of us for a while, just to kind of make sure that,
gag a magnet on a gut wagon.
Yeah, it just wasn't healthy.
You had a decent cook in camp, but that wouldn't happen, right?
Decent cook.
Well, I think
babies.
I think I would have to say is like Mark said, I'm going to leave my bow at home.
You leave your bow at home. Well, I'll take care of the rest.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's what he says.
I mean,
if he's got 5 cameramen and 2 shooters, he's going to be the caller.
Yeah.
Well, he knows his place. It's the same way as these guys that are,
well, especially if you've already knocked one down or something, yourself.
Exactly.
No sense in dragging it.
And it must be getting close to the season, because even the second question was about hunting partner. So, Eric, you take that one, man.
Yeah, this question comes from Jason Case from Denver, Colorado. Hey, thanks for listening to the show, Jason. Your question is, how do you make decisions during the hunt when hunting with a partner or partners? When I hunt solo, it's just me, and if I screw up, it doesn't matter. But when I'm with a partner, I worry about making the right decisions. It's no longer just my hunt on the line, and I find myself changing the way I hunt or making decisions differently. Even though I know better, is it just me, or do you guys have the same issues? If so, how do you handle it? That's a great question.
It is.
So, I'm going to take like the first part of your question. How do you make decisions during the hunt when hunting with a partners? Well, the biggest suggestion I would make to you, and I'm just telling you from experience, is don't be making decisions you haven't talked about before you get out there. You guys need to be on the same page. So
100.
So like this weekend, I'm heading up into the Gila to start hauling all my water. And the guy I got a new partner. He's never bow hunted before. So it's a lot of coaching. We've been getting together. I mean, we're not going in there blind, but these are opportunities for me. We're going to coach around scenarios, calling, setups, hand signals, really talk through all this stuff to make sure that we're always on the same page. Now, one of the things I will say is, I made the mistake years ago because I'm really type A guy, man. It was like my way or the highway. And when I hunted with guys, and I just didn't know how to pull the throttle back. And if somebody made a mistake, I'm the one doing I'd get so upset, and then I wouldn't talk to him. It was just me being childish and stupid, And so what I learned is that, it's our hunt. And I just learned that, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm okay with it. Don't worry about making them. If you're worried about making a mistake, you're going to be hesitant. You're not going to do the things you need to do, but just try to be on the same page, but really exercise a lot of grace, man. We only get this chance to go out once a year, enjoy each other's company. I mean, you should know your guy before you go out there. Hopefully it's not somebody you've never hunted with, but it's somebody. Yeah. And just, have that agreement. Like, hey, if I make a mistake, or if you make a mistake, don't worry about it. I'm not going to beat you up on it. We'll have a discussion to see like, okay, what do we do wrong here? How do we fix it the next time? Yep. I'll own up to, because I made many mistakes. I've cost people bulls. They've cost me killing bulls, but but in terms of tactics and things like that, that does not change. All the stuff stays the same when I'm working animals, or I've got somebody in front of me that I'm calling for, whatever. I don't change because I'm not worried about what they're going to think or whatever. I'm more worried about like, what's that bull telling me? What's he doing? What's the time? I'm reading the situation, and I'm going to do the best I can. And sometimes it works out. Hey, sometimes it doesn't. That's just hunting. So
sometimes you got to make decisions on the fly.
All the time.
And I think, like you said, Eric, when you have a guy that you're hunting with, it happened to us this year. I was like honored that RC Knox would give me the opportunity to set up a hunt, right? Yeah. And we're going to go hunt your plan. I'm like, holy crap, I got the legend on my back. I'm going to be setting up the hunt. Holy crap. Now, he's watching he's guided more hunters and seen more bulls take. So I felt a lot of that pressure, right? But he was so gracious in allowing me to screw things up or do whatever I needed to do. Never said a word about it, and backed every play I made to the hilt, right? And I couldn't ask for anything better. Like it was amazing. I set up half the night planning routes and which way we were going to go and all of these things with the wind position, you name it. I spent a lot of agonizing time figuring these things out, and he was never second guessed. I like that plan. Let's go execute it. And it ended up it worked out. But you have to be on the same page. And when you got guys that aren't on the same page with you, it'll make you pull your hair out, man. It really will. It'll make you pull your hair out and want to punch somebody right in the eye. It's so important for you guys to have conversations
all the time,
and then go execute, right? And have a guy that's the point guy, right? Have the guy that's the point guy. I
think in my short experience, I think it's important that the person that you're hunting with, preferably when you're picking a partner, make sure you know that person's heart and intentions. I think understanding people's intentions, obviously good intentions, makes a world of difference, because when we do make mistakes, there's an underlying understanding that the intention was positive.
It was good faith.
Yeah, it was good faith, right? So that makes everything a lot more manageable and easier to handle. And look, I can I know we've told this story before, when Chav got sick a couple of years back, and Joe is like, you go ahead and take the guys out and go hunting, and I just felt so insecure and so nervous about that. It was just crazy,
yeah,
right?
But you killed it.
Well, but the what made a difference was the way both Manano and Brandon, kind of were about it, and how they supported me too, and how we worked as a team. And, I was open to listening to their ideas, and we were kind of gathering every once in a while, having a conversation. What do you guys think? Should we go this way? Should we go that way? How about we go by this kill? And we had an awesome time, right? But it's just opening yourself up to, look, make yourself vulnerable. You don't have to be the leader out there, and don't expect yourself to, like, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like Eric said, enjoy the hunt. Let the other people understand what your intentions are, and make sure that they know that you want them to succeed, and just support each other out, man. Have fun and learn, because at the end of the day, every time you make a mistake, it's going to be a new strike,
a learning moment,
and a learning moment. So,
and when I take a guy out, the last thing I want him to do is, I don't want him to feel pressure from me thinking,
right,
man, I'm worried about what he's going to say or think about what I did. No, man, then your mind's not in the hunt. I want to do everything I can to build your confidence. Like, man, don't worry. I just want you to. It's like anytime I'm coaching it, when I was coaching kids and stuff like that, I didn't want them worried about, oh man, if I make a mistake, my coach is gonna just.
Yeah.
So I want that kid to. I want that kid
fail
to
fast.
Fail fast. I want that kid to be confident. Like, I can do this, And yeah, if you make a mistake, hey, that's cool. Maybe we do something a little bit different. But you know what? You got this. Let's go back out and let's try something else. And
I'm gonna give just a little bit different viewpoint, because
Sure.
I see things on one side from all the years of guiding as well on there.
Absolutely.
And that, when you're out with a partner, number one, it depends on the level of your skill sets. Sometimes.
Agreed. Agreed.
So somebody might naturally be that person that's on point
Leader.
because of the skill set, right? So play to your skill set. Now, that doesn't always mean it that way, because, for example, last year, it was a big goal of mine for my coaches to step up, right? So like when I went out with Luis and Manano, I was like, Luis looks at me to be out there leading and I'm like, no, man, go. It's yours. You do it. Yeah. So it's kind of like,
that was super weird, man. So weird.
but
I know how you feel.
Yeah.
But I think where it comes from is, and what Jason might be talking about is like, for me, if I have somebody or a couple of somebody's with me, and if I was by myself and that bull goes off down in the bottom, and it's nasty, I'm going, right?
Yeah.
And if it blows up and then I hear one up at the top, I'm going. If that blows up and I'm going, well, not everybody can do that. And by myself, I wouldn't worry about it, because I'm going to do the things that have been making me successful all these years. And what starts to happen is people that are like that will, they start to doubt, well, can this guy take it? Or if you're not hearing anything, you start to feel their disappointment, or, and so you might doubt yourself in what you're doing because of the responses of the person that you're with, both physically and mentally. And so all I can tell you to that is I had to tell myself at one point, now when I'm guiding, it's different, because it doesn't matter if I get to the elk first if my hunter doesn't, right? That doesn't matter. I learned that years ago. It's all about, I've got to get them there. So, but when I am on my, when
I'm going to die here.
When I'm with a partner and that partner is committed to hunting with me the way I hunt, I mean, there's always, like, when me and Gilbert are together, there's got to be adjustments that are there. When me and Chavez, there's got to be adjustments. But as far as your mentality, you have to make the same decisions that have been making you successand all this time.
I agree.
So if that means that you got to dive off and it blows up and it doesn't happen, well, that's what happens, man.
Yeah.
And it's because of the moves and the decisions that you make that you've been successful. So you can't alter them because you're worried about how the other person thinks. Especially if you have that confidence level and you felt good hunting solo, sometimes you got to act like you're still solo, but now you have the benefit of a partner, and they're going to learn from you in that process. But you got to communicate. Like everybody has talked about, bottom line is always communication. I always try to coach guys up. I want them to know what's in my head. I want them to know where we're going to go before we get there. What's going to be our roles when we get there, right?
You got to be coachable.
Yeah, and look, you're going to screw up, man. I mean, I blow things up.
Yeah.
I've been hunting these critters for this is going to be my 40th season, and they're elk, and it's elk hunting. It's not most of the time it's not going your way.
It ain't scripted.
No,
I think one of the things that I would say that you need to have a conversation with this person that they're talking about hunting with and see what their ethics are. See what, well, would you actually take that shot, or would you do this or do that? And that could be a big turning point there as far as whether you want to hunt with him or not.
You know what though, RC, on that? I think sometimes it's better to not ask them, but to express your view. Because, there's some people that don't know any better, and they're like, well, heck yeah, I'd take a shot. But when you tell them, to me, that's just not a shot
risky.
I would take, and that's marginal, and why, you actually teach them something. It's a learning moment, right? Instead of, now, if that person is like somebody that you guys know that, and he's still flinging arrows at an animal moving at 90 yards or 80 yards and not caring because all they want to do is put an animal in an arrow, I definitely don't want to hunt with that person.
I've just always been with a head coach, and I'm come from a coaching background. And when your head coach tells you this is the play you're going to run, you go run the play, right? And you execute it. And at the end, there's really no deviation from that other than when you come back and say, hey, they're blitzing 5 right now. We need to do something different here, right? I mean, it has to be communicated, right? At the end of the day, I think it's all about communication and how well you can read one another in scenarios. I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
I think you guys are way too nice.
Oh, look at that.
Look at he's got
for adjusting your hunting partner when he got out of line, man.
Perfect.
Oh, man.
Perfect.
I grew up, Wayne had a look. Like it was legendary with the cameraman.
So does Joe.
And he had a look. And if you broke a limb, he'd give you the look, and he'd give you 2 fingers, and then he'd point to his grunt tube, saying, "If you broke another one, the grunt tube was coming off." Yeah, that was it. And he was legendary, man. All the cameramen would come back to like, he gave me this look, and I don't know what it meant, but I don't like it.
Yeah,
and that was
that's perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
That sounds like Carl Gamage to me.
Yes, sir.
You talk about being type A, man. It was get the job done, comically so.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
That's sweet, dude.
There's something to be said for sure about relationships up in the mountain, communication, understanding each other, and having differences, because they will take place. And especially, when you get to that hump day, when the mountain has wore you out, when you're tired, when you're hungry, when you're cold, things, it changes your state of mind for sure. And so you really have to get to know each other, and you really get to know the true each other. And a lot of patience, and there's got to be a lot of underlying communication there.
It was a great question, Jason.
Hey, I was going to add one last thing though, and I don't know how you guys would handle this, but I had a situation with my hunting partner, and he came from out of state, and we were on like a 9-day, 10-day hunt, and I was trying hard to get him on a bull, missed a couple shots, but we got down to the end, and we really didn't talk about it, but I'm like an equal opportunity killer.
Yeah.
I'll kill what's right in front of me, right? Well, this was like, we're on the second to last day of the hunt. We'd been on this big herd, didn't have an opportunity for him. So we were taking the break in the bottom of a canyon, and I sat down and I heard something coming. I look over and I had this cow, and she's getting ready to walk about 10 feet in front of me. I had a big tree in front of me. I picked up my bow and I whacked her, shot her, killed her. And we were way back. Yeah, nice deal. problem was I ended his hunt because it took us that day, that afternoon, and the whole next day to pack that animal out, pack our spike camp out. And I could tell that it kind of upset him a bit, but we didn't have that discussion prior to going in there. Like, hey, how would I might have done it a little bit different, but man, I just couldn't pass it up. But we didn't talk about it, but it caused a little bit of stress there. So you might want to have that discussion too. What are you guys hunting for? I mean, hey, if this situation presented, how would you feel about just so we were on the same page? And it kind of caused a rift between us a little bit just because we never communicated that piece to it. Right. So.
Well, guys, you know what time it is. It's time for the Elk Bros shout-out. New to our show. This is a shout-out to a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week, Joe.
Yeah, buddy. And first up, a special Elk Bros thanks to all. Last time on the last show, I was like, where's the love? Man, we hadn't gotten any reviews, right? Dude. Reviews came in, man. So I just want to thank those people that left those incredible reviews. Wow. And thank you for the love, man. John Child, who says he loves the cast calling episodes. He's like, Game and Fish better get ready, man, because there's going to be some people taking things out. And Steve at Drifter Trailer said the show makes him feel like he's sitting around with old friends. And Steve, if that is what's happening, then we've checked that box. That's exactly what we want, man. Tim from St. Marie's, Idaho says it's nice to hear from people with his budget.
Yeah.
I'm glad you have a budget, bro. Mine's like, and he said he'd like for us to cover backpacks at some point, so yeah, cool. and I can see where that's something to talk about, man, because I mean, backpacks range anything from $700 down to $80 and what works, what doesn't. And so it'd be a good topic, man. And Randy SF, I want to thank you. Ed Morris out of Louisville, Kentucky. Ed's a great individual. We've heard from him before. He says, and that's just it. He listens a lot and comes back and says that we're not stale or repetitive.
That's awesome.
Vinny Farrell up at Puyallup, Washington, said episode 65 with Doc Ward. Man, that episode has sailed, y'all. I mean, he said it was 5 stars. So thank you guys for that. And now for the top listening city. It's known for its Cajun and Creole culture. In 1959, this week's top listening city was declared as the crawfish capital of the world and is home of the world-famous Crawfish Festival every May, where thousands converge on this little city to pay homage to Louisiana's famous crustacean. And guys, it's more than just a good time for the whole family, because this event that they do, it raises money through their ticket, their food, their event sales. And the whole idea is to promote Cajun culture and crawfish farmers around the area. And this event has raised over $1.3 million to date for their civic organizations, city improvements, and has funded local high school scholarships, man. So a big thank you, a big hats off to, and I'm going to say, Breaux Bridge, Louisiana.
You got it, man. Nailed it. Nice. Breaux Bridge, Louisiana. Been there. Beautiful town. Great people, man. The culture there is awesome. And the food is off the chain, man.
Shout out to a buddy of ours over there, Tommy Bro, man. I mean,
Tommy Bro. Yeah, he's from out around Port Vincent there, not far from Breaux Bridge. So, yeah, Tommy Bro. Shout out to them guys, our Cajun brothers over there for sure. Joe, the next top listening city is located on the beautiful Lemonweir River in central Wisconsin. According to Indian folklore, the area was used as a winter location for hunting and trapping. It's also home to actor Kurtwood Smith, with famous roles in RoboCop, Rambo 3, That 70s Show, and many, many others. But if you're looking for family fun, go hit the Three Bears Resort, a 60,000 square foot indoor-outdoor water park in New Lisbon, Wisconsin.
New Lisbon, Wisconsin.
This next one up, once known as a village, this top listening city was officially incorporated in 1955 and began its rich history as an area steeped in Indian folklore, cattle, ranching, lumber, and agriculture. Also famous for its beautiful landscape and a number of lakes that were formed due to glacial flooding. You would never know that this location is rich in history. Was also known in 2018 as the home of the world's top-ranked pickle player, Tyson McGuffin, and none other than Hayden, Idaho.
Hayden, Idaho.
Pickle player.
Pickleball.
Pickleball,
Dang
man.
it, Joe. I got this steeped in there really good and full floor. And then I just, on the flooding, I don't know what happened, man. I just
It's all right, man. That's that Venezuelan blood, brother. We love you. We love you, man.
almost, man.
You're
almost.
lucky there was no beaches in there.
No sunny beaches.
We don't want that.
But of all the things you could talk about in Hayden, Idaho, you would think
pickle
you'd be a
player.
pickle player, right?
Pickle player.
Look out, Tyson McGuffin.
He's
Eric.
bringing it. All right. So last but not least, our top next listening city is a city that's known as Georgia's Music City. So it's home to big artists like Little Richard, Otis Redding,
Sitting on the dock of the bay.
the Allman Brothers, and our big country boy Jason Aldean, who loves to hunt.
That's right.
And it's got a lot of music clubs. It's got tons of venues for that. Just a wonderful place. The city actually has over 10,000 Japanese cherry trees, and they got a 2-week event there. It's a cherry blossom festival, and it draws thousands of people. So it's got a city auditorium that's home to one of the largest copper domes in the world at like 15,000 square feet. But here's a big ElkBros shout out to Macon, Georgia. So welcome
Macon,
aboard,
Georgia
boys.
in the house. We got some Southeast blood showing up.
Yeah. Have you been there?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just in Georgia last year, man. Just went through Macon last year on my way to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Oh yeah, for some softball.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hey, Eric, you know you're not supposed to. You're supposed just to read what they give you here. I mean, you don't have to go above and beyond and just find other stuff that it's not even, in the script. Man, that's messed up. Makes us all look bad. You know what I mean?
Man, that's Eric, dude. He's a classic overachiever, and we love him, man.
There you go.
Oh, I actually find that awesome that you go in and actually add your own spice to it. You find more stuff on the city that's assigned to you. Very cool.
Mark, do you want to give a shout out to your hometown, bro? No?
Montrose? Kind of covered it, man. We're going liberal, man. It's been hard here lately. I don't know what to do. No, we're good. California has moved in. No, we're good, man. Montrose is still a cool place. We got a lot of good stuff going on. Like we said, there's a ton of people here and a lot of the hunting industry that's still here. And it's
awesome.
That's sweet.
I like Mark.
So let's
You ever get up to Delta?
Oh, yeah. I was in there this morning shooting horses.
Oh, cool. I got a buddy that lives there. It's got a 80-acre ranch there.
Dude,
Zach
no
Martinez.
buddies, no friends, man. Quit lying.
He's the only one I got, but he moved away from me. So that
All right, so let's jump into the content, man. Elk calls and calling, because we got a chance here, Mark, that man, with you here, it was really some things with you being in the industry that I think there's so much about these things that, that everybody is buying and purchasing and putting in their mouth, and they really a lot of times don't even know what, why, or how. I mean, it's like, okay, because I see this person use this, or this one has a nice color on it, or this one says it calls in bulls, I'm going to get that. So what advice do you give to folks, guys, that on selecting a call that works for them?
Well, it's going to come down to, it still comes down to whatever a guy can pick up and be proficient with, like right out of the gate. I think we've got enough choices today that I think that's really possible. I think we've got small frames, we got medium frames, we got large frames. I think there's some interesting crossover with most of the turkey reeds are built on one specific frame that comes up out of Pennsylvania that a third-party guy just built supplies for, but I would say 90% of our turkey calls are built on that frame that are more of a large frame on an elk call, but in the turkey world, that's just their standard deal. Right. So like a lot of guys come out and they'll start going to the smaller frame stuff. They're like, they have fit concerns with that. And I don't think it's a fit. I really don't, man. I don't. So your mouth is still a sound chamber. It still holds back pressure. When you put air to it, it's still the way the roof of your mouth is shaped still affects how well you can or cannot call. So I do think fit's super important. but I think you get used to a certain size. I think you get used to a large one or a medium one or a small one. And even me building, if I'm building on large, man, I'm like, man, how do I ever put these things down? These things are great. And then I'll get off those and I'll start building small frames, and it'll be the same thing. It'd be like, man, these are great. These,
I would rather have them large myself, Mark, and be able to trim them or whatever, right? If I need to. If it's too small, then I have problems with it not getting the right back pressure and getting the right air. But if it's big, I can always trim it up and get it to where I want it to be. I don't have to do that much anymore, but because I think calls are built on different frames, like you're talking about. When you look at
there's so many options there, and I think the turkey guys, and you got to remember, a lot of the guys coming out learning, they're turkey guys. We got 6 million turkey hunters, right? Yeah. We got a lot more turkey hunters. We have elk hunters. No doubt. Those guys are coming out trying to grab stuff and be proficient with it. But I don't think they're aware of just how much stuff's going on the elk side.
And thank God we can have more on the turkey side. That's fine with me.
Yeah, keep pushing them to them dang thunder chickens.
That's right.
One thing I've found about frame sizes is this as well, is that there are a lot of people out there that go into elk hunting that have never bought a diaphragm, that generally are going to get probably a medium size frame. And what happens with that a lot of times is, and it depends, all the pallets, there's a lot of variables, but generally what I find happens from the guys I work with is they get that medium frame up in higher in their pallet because it's going to go in higher, and actually it's a little more forward than it should because it is a little bit smaller, so it's going to go forward. So then when they get a larger frame, and when we say larger, it's only going to be 1/8 of an inch. I mean, it's like a 6 on each side, right? So it's just that little bit that what happens is they're trying to put the same placement where they had that other one, and it really isn't going to work for them. They have to just bring it back behind that eye teeth a little bit more, and in order to get that feel that they need to. So and now one thing I feel about too, Mark, is the more latex you have, so the wider it is, the more latex you're going to have. That's the area between the frame, right? And the more you have, the better control you have. I mean, the less latex you have, I think the more limited you are in control. I don't know. Do you feel that way?
I agree. So this is the way I look at it. I think a big frame, guys that are super proficient can put a little bit more, I'm going to call it English on. Yeah. I think put a little bit more technique on it. I think the small frames, I think they're great for what they do. But I think they run they're like meat cleavers. I think they just pound through the notes, but it's the same thing over and over and over again, to where I think you have a little bit more variable with a double read or a triple read. I think you have some more dexterity there. But the small frames also, I think, give you things that the big frames don't. I think they give you more volume, and I think the control is a little bit better, especially for guys starting out. But I mean, frame-wise, like, I don't know if you guys can see that or not.
Yeah.
You can see the difference on.
Big difference.
Large versus small,
Yeah. Now the medium's a lot harder to tell in between there, right? Yeah. I mean, the small is really evident because that's a real tight fit. I mean, it's really going to go in there. So, but do a favor for me, because here's where I think people are lacking, is understanding the whole thing about latex thickness and stretch.
Yep. So the first, and I always love this story going back and talking about it, because I think it really paints a picture of just how fanatic hunters are. So the first diaphragm my dad ever saw as a kid was his uncle, and my dad was in his teens. His uncle was sitting in the house making turkey sounds out of his mouth, which nobody was doing at the time. And I'm sure it was, just a thing that was passed down of how we did it. And I think it probably came from like a tube call with latex before the diaphragm came along. But the first diaphragm he ever saw was a lead top to a toothpaste tube that they had chopped out with a pair of tin snips, a condom that they'd stretched out across it, and a piece of duct tape. And Dad assures me it was not a used condom.
Used one.
It was. He said that was his
He's
first.
sticking to that story.
So that was the first diaphragm he had ever saw. So it's come along different ways, but prophylactic. So and I laugh at this too. Everybody looks at ingredients on turkey calls, and now they just call it prof. Nobody's aware what
prophylactic.
Prof is. It's prophylactic. It's still condom. Right. So, and a lot of competition reads, especially on the turkey side, is still built out of prof. It has a, do I dare say, it has a nice, wet, organic sound to it.
Right.
It's getting better and better.
But
this show is gonna go through the roof.
Welcome, y'all. Welcome.
But I think on the elk side, I still, like, we sold that double blue reed like by the gazillions, and that was made out of a thin, so thin being 0.025 is what we call it, but like if you write out, it's 0.0025. That being the thinner end of it versus thick would be 0.005. So when you're looking at the ingredients from manufacturers, that's what you're looking at, thin to thick. Now, thin doesn't last as well. It's thin. It doesn't hold up near as good. It breaks down sooner. Versus that thicker will hold up a lot better. Like people still buy just straight triple reeds from us all the time just because of durability. They can buy one and they can kill it all season long just because it's got 3 layers to it.
Yep.
You know, but I still
they last longer.
Talk about
you won't brew one out in an afternoon.
No, you can stand on them.
Yeah,
for sure. They'll hold up. So,
grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding. What about the stretch? As far as,
So on the small frame, and it's funny because a lot of people, like we just now got into the small frame game a couple years ago. So we're really good at the big frame stuff. And everybody has been very much like, man, we don't like so-and-so's brand because of this being small frame. They don't hold up as well. And I don't think that's fair to them. What I've learned in building large and small frame stuff, there's not near as much stretch that goes into a small frame. So as soon as your saliva hits that and it starts softening up, it loses tension. So it just quits performing as well faster. Yeah. Versus, and I use the analogy like, on a scale of 1 to 100, and I could even show you like a call press. That's literally, we got a little dial, a little meter, and that's how we pull tension on it. But on a small frame, on a scale of 1 to 100, I'll pull it at 30 on the small frame. On a big frame, I'll pull it at 90, if not 100. Yeah. So there's literally 3
relative. It's relative, yeah.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
So I don't, that's something to know about the small frames. They're not wearing out. They're just getting wet and soggy. They're just not performing as well.
Yeah.
So, and that's, as long as they're dry, they run like a top generally. And then as
But you can take a the thickness of latex and you can do a loose stretch or a tight stretch and get a different sound.
Yeah, you can get a different performance out of it. And like I stretch my big frames tight as a drum, like they run a little on the ragged side, but I like that. But I mean, hell, I've run a call forever. Versus I think if you don't put quite as much stretch, they're a little bit easier to control. They're a little bit more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So if a looser stretch is easier to control?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the newcomer, is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So because now, a lot of people are doing, some of the call places are giving charts that are showing, thickness and stretch on that.
And they need to. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of a better gauge for, for people that are from beginners to, and you can actually take a tighter stretch, a thicker latex, and it's not going to be a good cow call coming out because it's going to be difficult for you to control that. Whereas, if you had that thinner latex that you were talking about before, it's going to be a whole lot more flexible. It's going to be easier to do cow calls coming right out the gate. But you go start yelling some bugles and screaming on that thing, you're going to
wear it out.
Wear it out,
right? So that's one of the points I'm trying to get across to people is that, there's some people that will buy a diaphragm call and they'll throw it in their mouth. And the first thing they try to do is cow call with it when it's a thick latex. And they're like, oh man, I can't even get a sound out of this. It doesn't work very good. Well, it's number one, it's not designed for that coming out that way. It's a little bit tougher on the control, but you get on that thing and
crank a few bugles.
Yeah, after you get some bugles on it and you start cranking on it, it starts to get a little bit of a break-in period, which is basically the latex stretching, right?
Yep.
Loosens it up a little bit, and it can become an all-around call for you.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing I recommend to guys is, like, if you find that call that you like, I like to run 2 or 3 of them and have them to a point where I'm not going to continually, get hot on one. What I mean by hot is just all that saliva and all that heat in my mouth all day long working that. I'll work, and as soon as I start to feel it's starting to get a little hot, I'll switch it to the other one so it gets a rest.
Yeah, Joe likes to use other people's calls too. When
he forgets his.
After
When
the
he
use.
forgets his.
Hey,
Yeah, he likes
real wet.
He likes them used.
So, and I think there's a couple other like inside stuff too that guys need to know. When you're buying stuff on the store shelf, so latex is still latex. Like there's a reason condoms are packaged in the dark. It's because the fluorescent light breaks them down and they start to deteriorate. So
100%
as soon as you put it in your mouth,
Yeah.
it starts breaking down. As soon as chapstick tears it up. Copenhagen, man, I love you guys. You guys are job security.
Yeah. Y'all keep dipping.
Yeah, I mean, it's stuff tears down and they don't do as well.
Look, I got to tell you, I keep one in my mouth all day. I mean, when I'm elk hunting, I don't know, it's kind of like a pacifier for me. It stays just about in it all day. And I've got a little reed deal that goes on my hat now, and half the time I just keep it in my mouth. So I break it down sooner than it needs to break down.
That's one of the reasons that we've gone to things like this, Now we're able to do that, and it's able to keep those inside, let them get dry without it being there. And, and I'm like you, Gilbert, I have one that I'm not worried about it breaking up because I want something in my mouth in case something happens. And it also, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of like my dog, man. It's a security thing. I just got to have something that I'm doing with my mouth in there.
I quit dipping 20 years ago, 21 years ago. And man, when I'm fishing, I got fishing line in my mouth, right? I'll chew on it. If I'm hunting, I'm going to have, a call. If I'm elk hunting, I'm going to have a call in my mouth. So, I don't know. It's just kind of how I do things, but I like the thicker latexes because I am hard on them,
Yeah, and most guys are. I think something too is, and I think as manufacturers, we've got as many variables out of the equation as we can to keep the product consistent, but it's still, if I build 20 diaphragms, there's still going to be 3 or 4 that run like a freaking jet.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be a couple that go in the damn trash can.
There's some variability. Yeah.
Yeah, no matter what I build, from open reed calls to Mylar to building wood turkey calls to building diaphragms, there is some variable, and it's hard to. And I even, I'm going to go after the elk calling championship world a little bit too. Man, we'll build 300 diaphragms and we'll take 10.
Yeah.
Like I kid you not. I mean, you may buy the super duper jet kill 'em all elk call, but don't kid yourself, man. I mean, we're call manufacturers. We build those things out as good as we can. When we go to Worlds, man, that is the best that we can run. I mean,
I think Manano's been getting the duds.
Let me ask you something, Mark. Do y'all actually test them before y'all put them packet, or not really?
yeah. So have you noticed it tastes like bacon?
Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Oh my God.
No, we
Might want to let you might want to let your Muslim people know that before.
You've just been waiting to be able to use that tonight, haven't you?
Oh, no.
No, I will say this, like when we're building, I always got a call in my mouth. I'll check tensions, because the variables, like when you buy latex, before we're going too crazy on latex,
Yeah.
but the way that they make latex, they basically pour it out on a cookie sheet, they peel it off, they pour another one, they peel it off. Well, by the time you get to the 4,000th time they've done that, that thickness changes. I mean, it's microscopic, but it changes. So we try to stay on top of our thicknesses, and we try to mic it, and we try to make sure whatever we're building, if we got to change something on the call press, so we'll change it. But that means we always build calls as we go.
Yeah.
And we're running a call at the same time that we're running that call press, just to make sure everything's in check, because of that variable of 1 in 10, one's going to be a jet, one's going to be a dud. So we try to keep that variable as much as we can, and try to control.
As a new caller, as a guy starting out, based on what I'm hearing as far as, easiness to manipulate the call or make good sounds out of it, would it be fair to say, hey, if you're new and you're learning, just, advisable to go with a smaller frame and maybe with a thinner latex to begin with, and just try it that way? Or
It's interesting. I looked at back in the years of, like, even the calling contest stuff, where guys are just at their best of calling, and some of those guys, I'm still building some competition reads for a bunch of guys working for different companies still, but I'm amazed at the dynamics of, some of them can run the small stuff, and they're like, man, wish we had this 20 years ago, versus some guys that they can't run it to save their life. So there's still some variable, but I think that medium frame, I honestly think what a guy should do is he should go to the storefront and buy 1, 2, 3, small, medium, and large of the best selling, most popular reeds, and just put it in his mouth, see what's comfortable, and start there.
Yeah.
Because I think you can shift that thing further forward and figure out how to run it. I think you can shift the small one back and figure out how to run it.
It's kind of like picking a bow. You pick the one you got the best grip with, or same with a handgun. Whatever feels more comfortable at your grip and your hand. I guess something similar.
I'm a Hoyt guy. If I'm going to shoot a compound, I've had a bunch of them in my hand. My rotator cuff just now quit. I had to quit my trad gear, and I went back to wheels here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But
I bought a Hoyt off eBay and put it together. And it's like, it feels so good. It's just.
But the problem is, Luis, a bow has a grip on it, so you know where to grip it. With a diaphragm, some of these guys go to put it up in the roof of their mouth, and they put it too far forward.
No, fair enough. But I mean, the analogy is that you can also grip the bow wrong.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. But
Yeah.
I mean, come on, dude. You almost got to be. You can grip it.
If you
wrong, but
Manano, you
nowhere
might
to
turn
grab
it
it
upside
for-
down and pull it with no arrow in it, and let it go off and blow up.
For example, this is kind of, I don't know if you've ever seen this, Mark. So I had a guy the other day that he's really struggled getting a sound out of a call. And what he was doing was he was taking your call and he was taking and putting the metal right behind his front teeth.
Yeah.
And doing it. So almost like you would put grass.
Can you
between
make
your
a
fingers,
sound like
right?
that?
Uh-huh.
No, well,
Right.
get a buzz.
And he's getting a sound that way, just trying to blow over the diaphragm because he didn't know how to put that. Now, like I said, I see a lot of guys that end up putting them too far forward, or they end up putting them too far back. Whereas, I'm kind of almost, yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
It's right behind your incisors on a large frame
Right
versus
behind your
that
eye
small
teeth.
frame's going to fall. Like even on me, I bet that small frame runs half an
Further
inch
back. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
for sure.
there you go. So I think, when you're talking about, I think a lot of people are comfortable with that mid frame. And Mark and I had this discussion a long time ago. I don't even know if he remembered it, because his frames were the large frame. And I was like, bud, are you going to run a mid frame? I mean, that was the conversation. Well, and now Carlton calls you guys are running. In fact, y'all got a lot of stuff that's coming out here in the future that's going to be pretty.
Yeah, we're doing a full revamp right now and everything.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
When will they hit the market, Mark?
I'm hoping to have hard samples in hand here in a couple weeks.
Sweet.
I think all the prototypes have been done, all the 3D prints, all the mockings have been done. I'm hoping to have those in hand pretty quick, actually. So we took what we did on the large frame, we took all the bad feedback that I could get from people, which, man, I found it's hard to get people to tell you suck at stuff. Like, nobody wants to be confrontational about it.
Dude, I'm good at that. I'm like,
I tell Manano every day.
But
Luis makes.
We've taken all that feedback.
Yeah.
We kind of listened to everybody and went back to the drawing board on some stuff and tried to improve where we were, and then added some stuff to it. I'm honestly super excited about what we got coming, but it's, I'm hoping to have some stuff in hand by hunting season.
Oh, cool.
Very cool. So, Mark, quick question. So when we talk about frames, the frames, the three different sizes you kind of guys work with, have to do a lot with the kind of the shape and width of your pallet, right? Yep. How about the height of the roof of your mouth? Is that something that comes into play? Something that is thought about when engineering these diaphragms?
I think it's huge because I think that's what builds up that back pressure in your mouth. And ironically, like back in the day, before we started, so the whole dome over deal, in all honesty, needs to give credit to Abe Moline. So Abe came out with that external recall that had a backing plate to it. And it didn't take everybody very long to look at that, because that thing, man, ran like a rail. And, there were some problems with it, but it also, when the latex was right, that thing ran like crazy. So everybody at the same time hit on it and were like, why don't we put this on a diaphragm? And that's what started the whole deal. But it took everybody, I think, years to really dial it in and to understand there's back pressure. And I'm sure, Joe, we've been talking tubes a little bit, and understanding that back pressure makes a difference in your mouth. Because you can take a tube, cup your hand over something not running, and a reed may not make a gear. It may not catch a note. It just runs just from high to low, and there's no exchange whatsoever. You put back pressure in it, now you get 7 notes out of it. So I think that all those things come into factor, but I think the roof of your mouth is where that started. And I think, Dater Kaboth won like 4 world championships. Corey and I were still like super young, like working in juniors, and John Sarkeesian Sr. was out there, and John, he's the only guy I'm actually openly going to say he's a little crazy. But man, the dude was an uber talented elk caller. My brother-in-law won a couple. Big Al Morris had a couple. All these guys, man, are like 6'5", 6'7". They're huge dudes. The pallets are all like really large compared to the small guys. So,
and it's interesting that you say that, because that was actually going to be my next question. Is there a relationship between pallet geometry and quality of color?
No.
Yeah.
Oh no! Here we go, man.
I'm just curious,
The same engineer you're talking to here.
And he's saying it. He's actually saying that.
I don't think
super interesting.
Correlated. Like the only way you could do it, man, is to get everybody to do like a mold of their pallet, and to sit down and compare all these guys that have won a crap ton of world championships.
Yeah.
And then see. That would be
I think we've already bridged the gap with the dome over styles and the bars over, and I think we've already figured out that back pressure plays a role, and I think that's why the smaller frames and the mid frames are becoming popular, is because I think we're bridging that gap, but without getting everybody together, man, and everybody doing a mold of their mouth.
Yeah,
it's speculative.
Yeah.
So on the middle side, of the call, the mid depth or medium size, which one would you recommend for a guy to start off with?
Rocky makes some really good mid frames.
No, I'm talking about your call.
No, I know, I'm being fair. So we're in the middle.
I understand you.
of pulling a mid frame. We do a small frame right now. So I think Phelps runs that small frame racket.
Right.
And we're starting to dip in that pretty hard now. We've got 3 different frames on that, or 3 different calls on a small frame. And then nobody's really on the big frame. And I still think that's a mistake. It's been too good for too long. You guys run.
I've actually heard, I've heard you should put as much latex in your mouth as comfortable. You know, if it's comfortable on the roof of your mouth, you should go with as big a size.
It's kind of like the weight on your arrow.
Here we go.
But that's what I've heard, because the more latex you have, the more, like you said, the more control you have over that latex.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah.
I had a question about packaging.
Yeah.
You know, so like if I go to, you know, any sporting goods store or whatever, and you're talking about light being sensitive to latex, how come you guys don't package them like a condom? Because I don't know how long it's been sitting in the store, if it's just a new shipment, you know, would it make a difference or not?
No, it is, man. And guys will buy them and they'll smoke out, you know. I don't have, so it's been tried. And unfortunately, people aren't.
It's an innovative way to.
We're still grabby, right? Like we still want to touch and feel, and I agree. I think, and it had been tried for a while. Like some of the early diaphragms. It's funny. I pulled up a picture the other day, and it was so the early diaphragms. Even like, man, I have to look at the date on it, but it was just aluminum. Like there was no even tape on it, and you stuck that in the roof of your mouth, and you just laid your tongue, and that's what sealed it. Yeah. In fact, Rob Peck still runs turkey diaphragms with no tape at all. He pulls the damn tape off and just runs it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, see, I would love to be able to go to a Cabela's or someplace one day. Yeah. And just have somebody, hey, so what size do you look? I'm looking for the magnums, you know what I mean? And they'd be like, okay, well, here's your.
Talking about mouth calls?
We're talking elk calls.
I'm talking about mouth calls, you know. I'm looking for the large ones, you know.
Extra large ones.
I've never had that opportunity, and there you go. Yeah.
Mark, if I'm a guy walking into like Eric said, if I'm a guy walking into a store and I want to start off with one of y'all's calls, would a Rip It Red be somewhere I'd want to start, or Rip It 4
low stretch? Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I'm gonna be
black single.
Yep. As a manufacturer, so our best selling reed is that 1.5.
Okay.
And that 450 and that triple.
Okay.
Those 3. And that's something too, like manufacturers, we kind of get caught in this rut of, man, we need to do something new. I can tell you right now, man, I got too many diaphragms, you know, and even from a user standpoint, I can tell you those are our best sellers.
Gotcha.
That they just run for everybody really, really well. One's light, one's medium, one's heavy, you know, and that's just the way that it shakes out.
Well, and it kind of runs that a lot of hunters are just like fishermen, man. They just want every color lure. Basically, but there's more lures meant for catching people than catching fish sometimes.
100%. Yeah.
But
ask me how I know.
One thing that I was going to say, though, too, that I notice is we're talking about these diaphragms, and we're talking about how they break down. And thousands of guys out there are buying diaphragms now, and they're using them and practicing on them, and they're getting ready to go. And then they take off with those same diaphragms and go to elk camp. And then, next thing they know, they're not getting the noise or the sound or anything that they want in the first day, second day, or third day, because they've blown them out for months already and then try to take. So I recommend to guys, when you practice on a diaphragm for 2 weeks and you find that you like that, that's a good fit.
Yep.
Immediately buy 2 to 3 more of those so that you have them, when the season comes along, because you're going to grind those out, right?
And I've blown one out in 2 days,
Yep.
And just, the first couple of days that sucker was solid gold, and then go to make a bugle and what in the world is wrong with this thing,
Well, and again,
good thing that I carry a pile of them in my backpack.
a lot of reason that some of those are solid just coming out is because a lot of them are soft latex, and they come out and they sound great out of the box.
They do.
I mean, there's some of those certain calls out there that people that are excellent out of the box for making cow calls. Well, that's what you should keep that for. Use them for making cow calls, because that's what it's for. And then, you know, when you got to be cranking all day, man, you better get a little bit thicker latex so that you're making that. And that actually could get in a sweet spot and become a great all around call for you. So it's just something.
Which one of y'all's calls, Mark, do you feel like it's a great all around bugle cow call? If you had to go like, okay, my life depending on me calling a bull elk in tomorrow, I'm taking that call, and that's where I'm going.
So on the large frame, I'd go the 1.5.
Okay.
And then on the small frame, I run that tribute a lot. It's a lighter weight reed. It's super thin, but we backed it with so we put a piece of .0025, and then we backed it with a heavy piece of 4,000s on top of it to give it some spine. And I same deal, man. I smoke through them. You know, I carry a handful when I go, but I like that lighter latex. It's tinny. It's higher pitch. Yeah. And I think, you know, we need to have that conversation a little bit too. Call wise, I think pitch is important. I think that big, high, fluty, reach out there, punch him, pierces the ear, carries. I like the high pitch stuff. Those reeds hold up as well, but that's what I run.
So since you're talking about what you're running, let's move over to elk calling strategies and techniques, Mark. You know, you've got early season pre-rut, rut transition, and peak rut. Now, which of those three are the ones that you like to hunt the most?
I always look, you know, the last week of elk season, everything's cranking and they're snarling and tearing up trees and tearing the world apart. You know, that's so. You know, I'll shoot a big one in opening day, but man, I'd much rather go the last week.
Yeah.
Okay. You know? So, does your calling strategy change throughout that, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
In what way? Let's start out with that early season pre-rut.
So I'm way more patient early, and I'm way more passive. I kind of go with the feel in the woods, you know. I want to get something stimulated to bugle. You know, I want to locate something. I want to get something started. But that may mean that I get to where I know there's elk consistently. That may mean I sit there for an hour or even 3 hours before I leave that area, because inevitably it takes those bulls sometimes 45 minutes before they feel like bugling back to you. Mm-hmm. You know, I think you got to be way more patient early. And I think too, you've got to be, you know, do you want to call one in, or, you know, are you okay spotting and stalking? Are you okay changing tactics? Are you okay climbing up the tree with the tree saddle and hunting a wallow? You know, I think there's a lot of different ways to conquer that early elk season stuff. But, you know, and I think that goes back to preference of how you want to go about it.
So what about moving into rut transition now, where, you know, you've got those young ones that are starting to pick up cows and the big boys are staying out in the wings just waiting?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know, I mean, you feel it too, that there's days that are hot and there's days that aren't. You know, you're just trying to find, you're just trying to be out there enough to have enough stuff going on that the law of averages come in your favor, you know, and I think if I attribute one thing to my dad that he was great at, is he was the most persistent bird dog running guy that I've ever seen. He stayed in the woods nonstop. He made sure, I was raised with the saying to make sure you hunt the last day harder than you hunted the first day. And he went out that way. And his two biggest trophies, that 400-inch elk he killed in New Mexico down on the Gila, and he's got a moose that's, I think it's like number 14 or 15 now in the world. That was Pope and Young up in Canada. He shot both of those the last evening, the last day of the hunt, in the last minutes. You know, that big bull he killed in the Gila, he had Philip Vanderpool, that's over at Virtue TV now, filming it, and he told Philip, you know, like, hey man, it's last day, we're going to punch whatever comes in. That's what came in, you know. Wow. So I think you got to stay on the throttle the whole damn time and stay persistent. I think that's you got to be there just to increase your odds.
Now, when you say stay on the throttle,
got to be present.
A lot of things to a lot of people. Is that staying on the throttle feet wise? Is that staying on the throttle call wise? Is that staying on the throttle?
Yes.
Being out in the woods with
all. Yeah, I agree. Yes to all of it. It's
all of the above. Yeah.
Stay in the woods, man. Yeah, don't stay in the woods as much as you can.
In ElkBros language would be keep grinding.
He can't kill him, he can't. Keep grinding, that's right.
And now, let's go to your favorite time there. I mean, you got those bulls that are screaming at that time, and so that means you got herd bulls that are a little bit, they're going to be tough boogers to call in to pull off those cows. Are you after those herd bulls? You looking for those satellites? What's some of the calling techniques that you use, or do you use calling? Do you just try to Mohican sneaking into those boogers to get that shot? So
depends on how big the satellite is. Yeah, is he a shooter or not? No, I mean, so I think there's 2 or 3 things here that guys screw up the most, at least in my experience. And one thing I enjoyed about coming back into the industry and listening to everybody, and I really do, man, I listen to all my peers. I make sure to listen to podcasts and information, and I listen to Corey, and I listen to everybody, man. Yeah. One thing that encourages me is we're all speaking a pretty similar
story,
experience, and story and language. Like, other than a couple things here and there, for the most part, man, we're talking the same language.
Yeah.
And I think when you get into that late season, I think 2 things happen. I think what we screw up the most is that whole call shy theory. And I think they are call shy in certain instances, but I think more often than not, I think we blow cows up, and I think we push cows off, and they take the damn bulls with us.
For sure.
Those bugle and elk don't leave you if you are sounding like a cow and doing your deal and you're 800 yards away. Those cows leave. They pack everything up. You have no idea they're there, and they take that bull with them, and the party's over. Yeah. So there's 2 things there. One, I think, is distance, and I call it indirect pressure, right? So even though we're calling, even though we're not there, even though we're not on top of them, when you call, you are still putting pressure into the woods. But there's a lot less pressure at 800 yards versus when you're 100 yards, right?
Yeah. Now you're in his bubble.
Yeah, and it's, you want to get in that bubble, but now you got to close 500-600 yards generally, right? Before you can really make any transition there, and you got to do it without pushing the cows off. So one thing that I really have found useful, at least for me, and I've heard this from some of the other guys, is really back off the big mature cow sounds and go light, go calf.
Yeah.
Calves get away with murder on the mountain, man. Like they can make noise, they can crash, they can burn, they can run around, they can make as much noise, and those cows could give a rip generally. And so I think you got to be way more passive. If you locate something at 800 yards and you know, okay, I've got it located. Now I got to get between point A to the bubble. How am I going to do that and not screw up? Back off, go to your cow sounds. And then once you get in the bubble, and I think that bubble's 150 yards and under 100 if you can get to 100. But that's the way that I look at it. And I think people really have to understand that you are still putting pressure on elk. No matter what you do, when you are calling, you're putting pressure on them. So you have to be conscious of that. And,
great point.
Be smart about it.
So what about the volume of it? I mean, I know you have some incredible externals, and we hadn't even talked about externals yet. We've just talked about diaphragm calls, because I think there's some externals out there that guys use that, I mean, to get nasally sound, to get
RC Knox has got a badass one.
Yeah. And so, when you get in there, are you using, are you low volume on those calf calls? Are you those calves that are coming in, or for these guys that are coming in, they're not sure, number one, how often they should call, how loud they should call. Either of those mainly is their main concern, right?
So I think it's relative. So I think and every guy here, like we're talking right now, has done this, right? Like man, he's 500 yards.
Yeah.
And he's 200 yards. Because he's facing the other way, or he was behind a tree, so I think sounds relative. So, I mean, even though we think about it and we start like it's relative, I think it is for them too, So I don't back off how hard I blow per se. Volume isn't as big of a factor to me. I think what's important is cadence. I think cadence is huge. I think you can sound like a shitty cow, but you better have a natural, organic cadence to it.
Yeah.
That's not repetitive, and you sound like Ferris Bueller's teacher doing roll call, man. You can't roll.
So I know you have a call with you, whether it's external, whether it's diaphragm. Give these guys an example of the Ferris Bueller cadence and a natural cadence.
So, and this is the way I nail down hunters. Like, that's a hunter in the woods. Is they'll grab a cow call. They won't be overly proficient with it, and it'll be it'll be the same time, the same sound, the same motion versus organic. That has a way more energy to it and a way different feel to it versus these other guys that just, I hear this a lot from guys. Man, I'm afraid to call because I just don't want to screw up.
Right.
Yeah.
All the time.
And you're out in Colorado, you're hunting a unit with 30,000 acres or drainage with
30,000 people.
Yeah, and you're, what are you going to do, man? You're just going to wait for elk terrain. It ain't going to happen.
And I'm just the opposite. I'm scared not to call because I don't want to screw it up. I don't want to lose an opportunity, man. So, I mean, we talk about all the time that, you can sit there and wait for somebody to come down your aisle, or you can call somebody into your aisle, right?
Yep.
Or you can see that person in the aisle they're in and go after them and do that. Of course, there's that. But when you're out there in the woods and you're not seeing these animals, and there are animals in proximity, you can create those encounters, and you do that by using language. And like you said, that's like when I hear people talk about glunks, so like glunk, 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 instead of how that bull sounds when he's running and moving and slowing down, where glunk, 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 glunk. You know what I mean? So definitely being able to change up the volume, the tone, the length, the urgency, the emotion, which you were doing. You were showing a lot of emotion just earlier.
Yeah.
And
what is that call you're blowing there?
It was our green weenie that we make. Yes, green weenie.
Okay, green weenie. Gotcha.
I have a sense of humor. So
the green weenie. I like it.
Yeah.
The big green weenie. I got you, baby.
The green weenie namesake came from Dad was in hunting camp, and they had that old fighting cow call that we sold 10,000 of every year. And we had a guy in there that played guitar and sang, and they were making fun of that little bitty fighting cow call that just called in so many damn elk.
Oh my God.
And they nicknamed it the green weenie, which is where that came from. So
I love that.
I had a really insecure kid come in the office the other day. He's like, man, I can't buy that. It says green weenie. I can't own anything and put it in my mouth that says green weenie. That's just not going to fly.
Hide and watch, babe. I'm ordering one tonight.
I think we've covered it all right now. I mean, we called the prof, and we got Eric looking for magnet. I mean, we've covered it all here tonight.
Yeah. Luis just needs to get Manano a gift and get him the green weenie.
Yeah.
I'll see if I got one in pink.
Awesome.
The pink weenie.
I actually may have one.
This next question is, we already know amongst us what the answer is most likely, but maybe it's where you find you're having the most success is, morning, evening, or midday, your favorite time, and the favorite time that you like to hunt or that you have the most success. What would that be for you, Mark?
Man, I don't know that I have one per se. It's kind of like, I was asked a question, what's your favorite call that you use and everything that you guys use, and whether it's elk or turkey. And to be honest with you, it's the one that works. I really don't care. I'm not emotionally attached to everything. Yeah, I just want the one that works. And I feel like hunting time of day is the same thing. The reality is, especially for Colorado, we don't get to where we're going till 10 anyways. Like, we usually got a 2-hour hike at least ahead of us most often. So we usually end up hunting them that 10 to 2 range and into the evening a little bit, just because of the way it plays out. But, you get some places, you guys are in a little different spot there in New Mexico, that you can kind of get out and about and run a little bit earlier. But generally with us, at least the country that I hunt here in Colorado, it's all, 12,000 feet. We've got 2 hours ahead of us no matter what we do generally. So that usually burns us out till 10.
Yeah. Well, and I actually, the hunt that I like the least is the evening hunt. And it has nothing to do with success. I mean, we've had a lot of success on that evening hunt, but I hate racing the doggone sun, and I hate the chance of hitting an animal right at dark, and then in that situation, where now you got to go find that thing with lights and different stuff. It just adds an element of stress, on that evening hunt, and
Packing it out at dark.
Yeah. I don't mind that as much. I mean, it gets cooler at night. That's not, but it's just, man, I mean, you don't see the hit as clear. sometimes there's some guesswork that happens there, and now you got to wait. And if you do start tracking an animal and it is a hit that that animal's in a proximity, and you've waited your due diligence, but maybe you misdiagnosed the shot and it's a liver where he's going to take longer, and you end up jumping that animal again because you just can't see it in the dark. You end up seeing it go off. It just adds that extra element of stress. So that's probably
plus you're wore out from the rest of the day. I mean, you've been up and about hunting all day long too, so now you're up through the night and having to clean an animal if you find it and packing it and all that stuff.
I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Well, it basically comes down to, I'm going to put an animal down if I have the opportunity. I'm going to kill it, right? But
They're poking fun at me, Mark. I promise you, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, then people start falling asleep on the carcass and stuff like that. It's just not.
And barking orders when they wake up.
Yeah, hey, we never give each other a hard time at the fire department.
Man, bro.
Yeah, it's never inappropriate.
So let me ask you this then, man. I'm gonna put you on the spot for some of these, man. Strategies for when things go quiet. What are some of your strategies?
Try to get them stimulated, but
make your own party. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
make your own party. I like that.
Yeah.
I'll change some things up there. So a couple of things have happened to me that have always stuck in my head, and they don't always play out, but it's happened a couple times. I'll get on a really big loud cow call and I will hammer that thing. Like, I will make the trees ring. We've got one call that we make that's way louder and channels just a crap ton of air, and I use it strictly for a locator. But when everything's quiet, that is the party, man. It's just so loud. I mean, they're just not expecting it. So sometimes you can get one to kick loose there. The other thing is, it usually seems like 10 or noon. If you're out in Colorado and you're hunting public land, you usually call somebody in by then. And I can't tell you how many times I've screwed with those guys and dove into trees and gone like full on competition, just raising hell. And I'll be doing it for 15 minutes, right? Just being inappropriate. And then the damn elk bugles.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I mean, I'm nasty. I'm lip balling. I'm cranking like I am giving her both barrels as much as I can. And then we're sitting there and the damn elk answers.
Oh yeah.
But do that when you're normally hunting. I mean, that's not part of your general repertoire of going big. But man, there's been several times I've done that, and then an elk is cracked loose. Yeah, I would have never heard otherwise.
I'm going to tell you right now, I spent time with Brother R.C. Knox, and we hunted all day in an area where we ain't heard a sniff, nothing. And I looked at him, I said, well, I don't know. I said, R.C., what do you think? He goes, I don't know, but I know what Joe would do. He said, I'm going to get just watch this. And he got his bugle tube out, man, and went to rip snarling bugles and cow calling. And I mean, it was about a 20-minute set where he's just blowing the woods up. And I mean, brother, it sounded like a herd of buffalo coming off that daggum mountain. They erupted on us so fast. I was like, oh my God. And then we had some, some gifts from the gods with some bad wind and this, that, and the other. But I could have killed a couple of bulls in that set. I passed them, and RC wanted to choke the life out of me after him going through all of that, me passing them. But at the end of the day, we had nothing else going, right? And I mean, it was just so quiet. He did that, and man, it worked like a champ. So I've always remembered that.
He was dizzy and out of breath, and you didn't want to shoot.
Dude, I guarantee he wanted to roll my fat ass down that mountain.
Well, and here's my other deal too, man. We all have these rules. We all have our strategy. We all have our template of how we would like things to go. We have rules. Every rule I've got was made to be broken. At some point, stuff went the other way.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but man, they're just rules, man. They're just there to get you started, but there's going to be stuff that doesn't make sense sometimes that works in your favor.
Yeah, but that's a great advice. That's a great advice because basically you're just telling yourself, don't be so set in certain ways, because at some point you're going to have to adapt to that specific situation. You're going to have to become creative in order to seal the deal.
Yeah. But everything you're saying, every one of us, I promise you, been in that situation, and exactly what you've said, I've seen it work. We were ready to give up on a set. Joe and I killed a really nice bull in 2019. We were ready to give up, and and get out of there. And I begged him one more time, let's do one more little set. And man, we hear a bull about a quarter of a mile from us, and he's coming. I can hear he's hot because Joe went ballistic with lost cow calls. I'm talking loud. I mean, it was like, oh my God, the woods come alive. And dude, that one bull, and here he come, man. Had to go to a wallow first and then come over a boundary to us, but Joe still called him in, and we killed him at 35 yards, man.
No, that's what, man. You got to go to hunt till the very last minute, till the very last second of daylight. Go as hard as you can, because you know what? In December, when you're sitting at home,
you're going to regret it.
Waiting for something to do. You don't care. You don't remember it. You don't remember the 4 days of packing stuff out. You don't remember all.
You don't remember that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
Okay, so for whatever reason, whether it was terrain or it's because you didn't set up right in the first place, or whatever, you get that hung bull out there, man. What are some of the strategies that you've had with that?
So I'll either you can play this two different ways, and I've had it kind of work and fail in different regards, I guess. I've actually had the old turkey school deal of just walk away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't tell you how often I've had actually even decent 3-year-old bulls follow me and just stay 100 yards, and I'll move 100 yards. You know, like I'd give up and look, I'm not going to shoot him. I'm out. You know, I'll go to the next.
Yes.
And they keep following me. So that does work, you know, so you could play that to your benefit. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. Or, you know, use those $1,000 pair of binoculars that's sitting on your chest and start easing in. Start paying attention. Start picking apart trees. Look for eyes, ears, nose, horns. Start using what you got and start slipping and sliding in. And calling wise, man, it's really hard. Those bulls that hang up like that,
generally got cows.
I don't think there's a silver bullet there. I think you have to change tactics.
Yeah, there's so many different tactics, and I'm with you. You know, that young bull, he's staying off, and there's a reason he's staying off. You got to give him a reason to come with you, and we do that. We do that kind of pickle where you go one way and you come back. You know, so or you leave somebody there and you walk off and you get a call if it's a partner situation. We've also done it where, you know, especially if we get eyes on that bull where he's at and he walks off, then we're going to get up to where we're effective shooting range from the last place that we saw him, and then call back away from him again, because a lot of times they'll come to the same place they just came from, you know.
Yeah, there's that, or you know, that scenario we were talking about, pressure and range earlier. You know, if you got something that's answering you every single time at 800 yards, and every time you move up it goes, you know, he pushes off further, fine, sit there, let the guy on the trigger move forward. You know, he's going to bugle every time, say, hey man, every 10 minutes I'm going to pipe off. And you guys slide in there and try to get in that comfort zone where you can do something.
So, dude, I'm going to really put you on the spot here, man. Any golden nuggets, man, something that you a go-to call or sound. And look, I know it all varies and everything, but is there something that you have in your toolbox that other people don't, that changes the game for you in certain situations? Something that is off the cuff or not even off the cuff?
I don't think it's off the cuff, but I will say I think we call way harder than most people are comfortable with. I think we get on those open read cow calls because we've had so much success with them over the years, and we just waylaid to them, man. We don't, you know, you guys just heard me just running that a minute ago. We put that much energy in them. You know, those opening sequences, man, I'll sing that thing out there and let that note hang so it punches out there. I'll do stuff that you don't normally hear in the woods, because I feel like when you're calling, man, you are creating an energy out there. You're saying something. What's it going to say? Is it going to, you know?
I'm here. Yeah.
Do you want something dull and boring, or do you want something screaming bloody murder going after, man? I you know, put some energy behind it. I think that is super important. We're not passive about it. You know, we will if we have to. Like, I'll throttle back if I have to, but man, we go after it. Calling wise, we don't back off too much.
Awesome. And what about decoys?
They're great. So here's my deal on decoys. If you got two guys, I think they're great. If I was just guiding full time again, there'd be one on my pack all the time, because it's my job as a guide to make sure my hunter has as many opportunities as we can get. So if that increases my odds for my hunter, I'll make sure I have one on my pack. And we've had some crazy good success with decoys in the past. But, again, it's funny. So we've got a decoy line, and I'm fixing to sell it to a kid because they're great for outfitters. They really are. If you got 2 or 3 guys, that works out great. But and I do a lot of solo hunting. It's just one more thing for me to carry. And when I'm on a 3-day excursion, and especially in Colorado, we've got a few places that I try to hunt where we can just bump in and hunt. But I mean, I usually go in a couple hours and plan on staying 3 days. So it's just one more thing I got to pack and carry.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I find. The more difficult the decoy is, the less people will use it. Right.
Just to kind of wrap things up here in some awesome content, guys that are just starting out, the Rip It 1.5 and the Tribute would be somewhere you'd start, huh? Yep. And then definitely that green weenie. Is that harder to navigate how to blow some of the external calls like
no,
that?
So I will say this: what we did on the green weenie, that was a little bit different. We built that off the old Fighting Cow Call platform. That was such a positive platform.
Yeah,
we wanted to keep that. So that's why we did the barrel that was mag ported. I wanted a really short nasally barrel to it. That was important, but it was so damn small. You drop the damn thing and there was no, it was too small. So we mag ported that barrel. But the biggest thing on that tone board, we went in and sandblasted the injection mold. So there's a small texture on that.
Yeah.
And the deal with open reeds is they hang up like a mother when they get wet. That thing, as soon as we put a texture on it, it helps tremendously on that reed performance. It doesn't hang up near as bad.
Yeah, RC's got is it the hypercall that you have of theirs, brother? And man, that thing is money. When they're wound up, that hypercall is crazy cool. Yeah. And it sounded a lot like that green weenie for sure.
Yeah. Yep. So that's like I said, it's like adding that texture to the tone board. That was I think we're building so many things now that we're good at it. So
that's awesome, brother.
Let's build it a little bit better. So I'm taking stuff traditionally that has been bomb proof that we've used time again, and it's been tried and true, and improve on what we've done in the past.
Yeah, fantastic.
Native by Carlton. Native by Carlton.
Look, how humbled are we to have you, brother? Thank you so much, Mark, for you coming up here and sharing we call it the juice, man, the real juice, but from the elk calling culture that's out there. And we can't thank you enough, brother, for coming in.
Hey, man, I sincerely appreciate the time, man.
Can I ask one more thing?
Thank you.
On your diaphragms, are you the one that Joe was talking about? Being an artist, things like that. Are you drawing this stuff up that's coming out on those?
So yeah, all the graphic design, all the pictures on the website, all the photography, all that's me.
The Patriot ones are awesome.
Man. That's a skill set I do not have, but they look incredible. So nice job.
What has really driven innovation is desperation and needing.
Always does, always will, man. Always does, always will. Yeah.
Sounds like a horseshoe to me.
From one to another, huh?
Hey, and I think let's do this too for the show, for everybody that was listening. Let's do an order code for you guys. Let's do like a 40% off deal, and you guys figure out where to find that on the
40%.
40% off.
Man, you the man, brother.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be incredible.
We'll run a sale for a couple of weeks with you guys on that, and we'll go from there.
Do you have that code already to say it over here, or are we just going to put that in the show notes?
Let's just do ElkBros 40.
There, man, 40%.
That's unbelievable.
My Lord, y'all.
Yeah.
Not know the deal you just got.
Thank you so much, Mark. What a gracious, guy, man.
ElkBros 40, and that's 40% off, man. And you're going to run that for 2 weeks, Mark, after this comes out, right? Awesome.
Yep. Good, I'll have it up.
Thank you, Mark. Awesome.
Wow. We didn't expect that, ElkBros fans. That's for dang sure, man. Marc Carlton, they showed up and showed out here on the show tonight. Guys, if you like what we're doing, check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And just a reminder, if any of our listeners would like their questions answered on our show, just send your questions to info@ElkBros.com. That's INFO at ElkBros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands, kiss your wives, wives, kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broadhead sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Mark, thank you, guy.
And for our grinders out there, here's some more music from our brother Tony Wintrip to close out our show.
Yeah.
Peace, peace, everybody.
Peace. Y'all be good.
I'll make my living working east of town. Late nights in the summer till the sun goes down. I can't stop thinking about how my life's changed, but I'm still the same as I was young. I peeled them bark trees one by one, made a couple of dollars, filled my gas tank once, and I left my high school, barely made it by, but I found my way back. Oh, how time flies, living Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got. I'm digging them moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my buddy's homemade wine, living Northwest wild. This place has changed and it ain't for the good. There's a bunch of new faces in my old neighborhood, and the logging market goes up and down. There used to be a little export in this booming town. I fill my freezer from the river and the woods, kick it back with my old man. Yeah, my life is good, living Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi